The roof tore away like a page, and Mara stood up and shouted, "Objection!" at the sky. Benches floated. Flags snapped into the hurricane's throat. The courthouse groaned, lifting from its foundation like a ship, windows ringing with rain. The eye looked down through the missing ceiling, round and impossible. A pupil of gray light, she forced her heels to hold on the wet tile. Her palms shook around the brass rail. Third chair public defender on a flood case yesterday. Today appointed by panic. The clerk had screamed, "We need someone who can cite the Gale Charter," and the room turned to her. Because she remembered the page no one else read. Because she'd once known the old words. "State your claim," the wind roared, voice like a bridge breaking. Mara swallowed fear like glass. City of Bracken v. Tempest Azure, docket marked under the sky accords. Relief requested, stand down, move east, spare the harbor, spare the homes. Lightning bled along the edges of the eye, rain wrote white scratches across the floor. The judge's bench slid but settled, bolted to nothing but stubbornness. The floating jury box spun slowly, 12 empty seats creaking in the gale. "You have no standing," the storm said. Mara slammed her hand on the rail. "We built this courthouse on a charter stone. By law, any force that threatens the people must answer if summoned under seal." She pointed up. The keystone at the arch flashed faintly, carved with an old spiral, the Gale Charter. She'd traced it with chalk in law school. She'd laughed about it later fantasy law, a trick question on finals. "Not a trick now," summons accepted, the wind sighed. "You are loud, good," she said, though her breath trembled. Let the record reflect the storm concedes jurisdiction. Thunder answered like a gavel, the city below drowned and held. Boats crashed through streets, rooftops glowed with lanterns. She pictured her mother's house on Willow Row, the porch too low, the photo albums in a box. She pictured the letter on her desk, the one she hadn't mailed admitting she'd signed. The waiver that let the developers cut the reeds. Wetlands used to drink storms. Paperwork had choked them. Evidence? The storm asked. Mara lifted the soaked folder at her feet. It slapped like a fish. Exhibit A, tide records. Exhibit B, wind maps. Exhibit C. Her voice faltered because C was the one she didn't want to touch. Permit overlays. The courtroom tilted, drifting like a raft. Water streamed in and swirled around her ankles, cold and alive. She braced as a juror's chair ripped free and spun past. She kept talking. That was the rule in every courtroom, every flood. Keep talking. "Intent matters," she said. "This city has a right to survive. You have a path over open water. Take it. There is precedent." She spat the names like charms. The Barrow Bend reprieve. The night squall stay. Barrow Bend required an offering, the wind said. Night squall required truth. I brought both. She tried to smile. It tasted like salt. A banner snapped loose and wrapped her shoulders like a cape. She peeled it off, stood straight, and faced the eye. People watched from the clerk's counter, clutching each other. The bailiff's hat skittered away and vanished into rain. Behind her stern mask, guilt clawed and begged. "You signed the reeds away, remember? You helped this happen. What do you offer?" The storm asked. "My name under seal," she said. "And my story sworn." The wind leaned in, and the room leaned with it. The spiraled keystone glowed warmer. Mara felt her voice become a rope and tossed it across the chasm of sound. "My sister," she said. "Jessa, she drowned in a canal not marked on any map. The night the river ran backward. I was studying law, learning lines. I told myself it wasn't my fault. Then I learned how contracts move water as surely as the moon. I put my name on things that pulled the tide through the homes of people who never signed." Her breath hitched. "I know what I did. I'm not here clean. I'm here anyway. Let them live." Silence grew like a held breath. The rain thinned. For a heartbeat, the hurricane listened like a judge. "Truth noted," the wind murmured. "But your right to survive rests on broken marsh and greed. You ask me to bend. I ask you to pay. How much?" she asked, hating the quiver in her voice. "Your voice?" the wind said gently. "For one season. Your name too bound. Speak not for profit, not for self, only as advocate of storms." The title struck like cold iron. advocate of storms. Her jaw locked. She could argue, she could refuse. But the water pressed higher, and she heard faint sirens, and someone below screamed a name not hers, and she tasted her sister's last question. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Done," Mara said, and the word burned. "I accept." The hurricane softened at the edges. The courthouse drifted lower, skidding toward the square with a teeth-grinding scrape. Windows rattled, but didn't break. Lighthouses along the harbor blinked as if they'd been starving for air. Relief spread through her chest like warmth, and then froze at the edges because the eye narrowed. Wind curled around the keystone and hummed. A shadow rose behind the storm, taller than cloud, smooth as polished stone. The air went very still. A new voice spoke, not wind, not rain, dry, ancient, a voice that sounded like a closed book. "Objection," it said. "Appeal from the deep archive." The benches trembled. The clerk screamed. The banner she'd cast aside crawled back toward her boots, tugged by a vacuum she felt in her teeth. The wind her opponent, her near ally recoiled. "Archivist," it whispered, "this court has reached a stay." The shadow leaned until it blocked the eye. The hurricane's fury became a flickering candle in a cave. "City of Bracken committed pattern fraud," the archive intoned. "Secret channels, hidden clauses, counsel's signature." The shape paused, and Mara felt it point without moving. "Is on all of them. The petitioner is defendant." Relief void unless she surrenders not only voice and name, but memory of the set of acts that birthed this storm. Her thoughts stuttered. Memory? Of Jessa? Of the waivers? Of the righteous burn that had just made the wind listen. If she gave that away, who would she be? How would she defend anyone again? Without guilt, would she make the same mistake? Twice? The courthouse settled with a final jolt, as if choosing a side. "Choose," the archive said. Now her lips parted. The rain hung like beads. Somewhere below, a child laughed or cried it blurred. Mara felt the edge of her promise, the cut of her price, and the hunger of the archive reaching like a tide that leaves nothing it touches unchanged. She lifted her chin. Her next word would either save the city and hollow her or save herself and drown them. The wind bent close, almost kind, and whispered, "You are still loud. Decide." Mara took one breath and said, "Follow if you want the word that changes everything in part 2.